'Cause I'll be there for you, 'cause we care for you. You're there for me too, my friend. I know it's hard sometimes when you feel left behind. Tell me what's on your mind. Why do this on your own, yeah? 'Cause I'll be there for, 'cause I'll be there for you, my friend.
Welcome to Johnny's Chats. I'm here with Alice La Peta. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
More than welcome, more than welcome. Now, let's start. You are a Reiki healer.
Yes, I do a lot of energy healing, a lot of
Energy
different
healing.
holistic stuff, but the energy healing is stuff that I'm really kind of passionate in.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about that. What does it involve? How did you get in? How did you, go down this path?
Yeah, so I actually came from more conventional medicine kind of background. So I studied biomedical science and I was kind of going on to do medicine. That was the plan. And then it was kind of when I was studying and after really, and I just had a lot of anxiety and stress and everything that, you just get in life, but also with the pressure of kind of what I was putting on myself, I think. And what I look back on now is probably unresolved sort of traumas and a lot of stuff that I was trying to process but didn't really know how. So I actually started to go to this, it was like a spiritual development circle, but they did a lot of meditation. I just felt like a natural pull to it. So I found that. And so I was going through a lot of anxiety at that moment. And through the meditations and working with crystals, I just got almost like immediately calmed and grounded. And I just remember I just went like after that first day and went to a crystal shop near me, and I was like, please give me something for my anxiety. And the guy, bless him, he could see, I was so desperate. He just got me a black tourmaline, which is amazing for grounding and kind of just absorbing a lot of that negative energy. And he just sort of got me on a pendant and placed it on me. And no joke, I literally straight away, my whole energy, my whole body just like drained of all that nervous energy.
Wow.
And I just got grounded, and it was instant. And it kind of just, it blew me away. And I kind of thought there's something to these things that aren't pretty. So I just started doing that, all the time. I was going to this, doing these meditations in the big sort of classes every week, but I was obviously bringing them into my kind of daily routine. And I started working crystals, and then I started to really think about maybe I wanted to kind of maybe look into doing it as not necessarily, I didn't look into it as a career, but I thought, what, I really want to go the next level. So I started my training, and and I'm not looked back. I think I walked out, and the next day I set up my Facebook page, and I just wanted to, I felt like there was something that I had. It was some kind of gift that kind of we all have, but I knew I'd always been very intuitive, and it just felt really natural for me. So that's kind of really where it started, and I've just been kind of going deeper ever since.
Yeah, fair play to you. So you went, well, like the society's form of a healer would be doctors and stuff like that. That's all you turn to when we're ill, sort of thing. So they are like society's healers, like apart from like, well, where the real healing happens, sort of thing. But so seeing it from that point of view, and then going down this not so mainstream sort of path, sort of thing, like what's the differences? What have you noticed within yourself? Like what's really worked for you, sort of thing? Like where's it taking you to?
I think almost like the biggest difference I've noticed in myself and clients is that you have the kind of, you get empowered when you're kind of taking it into your own hands, or you're under the guidance of somebody else, and it's natural, and you feel like a big connection with it. So you're able to kind of actually have this space to be able to inquire and think, where may this come from, or what techniques am I able to do, whether it's breath work with crystals or meditation, yoga, whatever it is, that you're able to then kind of think, okay, does this resonate with me? Is it empowering me? And for most people, there's something there that is as if not more effective than the conventional option, which is generally either medication for anxiety, depression, and people can get it without even seeing their doctor these days, which is quite a scary thing. And there might be some sort of CBT and counselling, but generally it's quite limited, and it's not personalized, it's not particularly specific. they don't have the time and the resources to be able to really kind of investigate deeper and to see where, you know, what your triggers are, or maybe where that trauma is, and how that may be manifested. So it's a really kind of bespoke and holistic approach when you're working with kind of energy and healing. And it's very much intuitive in the way that your body knows exactly what it needs, and it can direct that energy to that area without your conscious mind even having to direct it itself, which is kind of liberating.
Almost like your higher self sort of like talking to you, this version, and like passing down the information. So it's like, so how does well, you said about crystals, how does that incorporate into that? What do the crystals do? Like, how do they work?
So the crystals have a vibration, like everything else kind of in the universe. Everything has a vibration, and it's kind of the structures and the vibration of that which kind of corresponds to certain different sort of chakras or energy points, or whether it's an emotion or an intention. So I use crystals mainly kind of to enhance as well. So we're really kind of talking a high vibrational therapy here, where we're directing, whether it's life force energy in the form of reiki, touch therapy, and as well as the crystals. So that generally you use crystals with chakras, so you're placing them on the different chakras of the body, depending on what the properties are of the crystal and maybe where you're intending to do the healing or to have it received. There's a lot of different ways of using crystals though as well. I mean, you know, you can just use them with a journaling practice or intention manifestation. A lot of people kind of are getting into like the rituals with the sort of the moon cycles. For years I've kind of just, you know, pop them in my bra if I'm going traveling or if I want some extra protection. You know, you can wear them as jewelry. I wear a lot as jewelry as well. So there's, it really just helps to amplify what you're doing. You know, and the more you look into it, the more you can actually use it to enhance, you know, the intention of the process.
That's quality. So different crystals, I suppose, deal with different chakras and different, like, whatever sort of like you're trying to heal sort of thing. There's different crystals for different sort of situations sort of thing.
Yeah, so for example, most people wear rose quartz, and that's the kind of the crystal associated with love. It's unconditional love. It helps you into, you know, form that loving relationship with yourself as well as with others, you know, help you to feel safe and nurtured and that kind of thing. So, you know, if you're going through a heartbreak or you're suffering some grief or some rejection or abandonment, then that would be a good crystal that would be good to kind of use while you're going through that therapy or that work. Yeah,
class. So we were talking the other day, you were saying about like the different chakras and how like different, well, you said about the what was it, the sacral one or something, the sacral chakra,
yeah. So
with that, with addiction sort of thing.
yeah, and addiction is something that I've become really interested in sort of the last year or so, and the association with the chakras. So each chakra also corresponds with different elements. So you've got the sort of ether, air, earth, fire, and water elements. So say for example, your root chakra, which is all about your security and your safety. So a lot of our traumas, a lot of them were developmental, so they come from childhood. Maybe if there was any kind of abandonment there, it might have been that a parent either was like an alcoholic and couldn't be there emotionally, or they were working, or it might just be like a one-off event, something like that, that's unsettled you, or you didn't have that secure environment at home. And so then that would then mean that you might develop an imbalance, a block, or an underdeveloped root chakra. So what you can then look at when you're working with the properties of it, and you know what we need in our life to be able to actually create a really strong, kind of free-flowing, powerful root chakra, so that we can feel safe and we can feel secure and strong. The earth qualities, and that can be brought in through different kind of practices, whether you're bringing in, even just for example, you know, like plants and things into your environment, or you're doing a lot of nature, you're grounding, you're walking barefoot outside, that kind of thing. And then when you're looking at addictions, if you have those unmet needs or those traumas in your life, whether it's adult or childhood, that may then lead to those addictions, which would be things like hoarding, a lot of food addictions, a lot of eating disorders, where you're actually trying to kind of fill that void there. So with, you know, that internal sense of safety. So that's why we develop addictions, because there is some kind of trauma there where we're trying to replace it with something. So the root would be the earth, so that the food would be great for that one. And yeah, like you say, the sacral is the water element. So a lot of sexual or inherited traumas that are related to the sacral chakra, the addictions there would be alcohol, sex, porn, all that kind of thing as well.
See, so what is the sacral chakra?
Well, it's so sacral. So sacral is just below the navel area. All right,
Okay.
so it does govern a lot of the sex organs, as well as kind of some like gut health and things like that, as well. It's also like the bottom of your tailbone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So what you said about like addictions coming out from past life, well, not past, early life, or maybe not so early life traumas and stuff like that. Well, a chat I had today reminded me of something that I thought about a while ago, was that it's like before we become adults, like this is also like a broader thing sort of thing. So like first thought is when we're kids, we can spend time on our own, like live in a box and we travel the universe, do you know what I mean? Like and we have that imagination and stuff like that. But then somewhere along the line, when we become adults, it's almost like you have to retrain yourself to spend that time on your own. Do you see what I mean? So like what I found myself through drink and other like sort of like drugs, weed, whatever, yeah, it's almost like it takes you back to that playful state again. Do you see what I mean? So it's like we get disconnected from our inner child, our playful nature, and we become adults, lose that for some reason, and then we use these drink and drugs to go back to that sort of thing. Do you see what I mean? So like, would you agree with that? Would you?
Completely agree with that. There is a lot to be said for losing our kind of in touch with our inner child, and exact, like, you know, just being really innocent and being playful and not having to kind of be responsible by having that pressure as well. I think we've really dissociated from our inner child in a way to kind of survive in the world we live in today. There's so much pressure, so much stress, so much judgment and fear that we're living with. And it's really kind of made it so far from, you know, that from having just been able to express ourselves, you know, or either we get criticized, oh, you're immature, you know, or you can't concentrate properly, you know, for a daydream or whatever it is. So we're constantly, you know, shut down for being like that. But that is kind of our innermost sort of natural state, and
definitely
we lose it. But it's so important to bring it back, especially when, you know, when you're looking at things like your inner child and actually getting that sort of self-fulfillment from within.
So there's a guru, Sadhguru, do you know? He says like he believes like like people, like, you know, there's a reason that people intoxicate themselves and stuff like that, but there's also a limitless source that we could intoxicate ourselves with, which I suppose is what the wise will call enlightenment and all that sort of stuff, you know. And it's like that I suppose they're in the foot, like if we're going back to our inner child and like where we're from is love, and that's the feeling that we're chasing, then if we feel that all the time, there must be, like, you know, like tapping into that limitless energy sort of thing, you know, like we can tap into it. But I suppose like we've forgotten as we've become adults how to do that without intoxication. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those kind of $1 million questions to actually, you know, how you can get that without other, like you say, you know, alcohol and all the kind of different drugs. And I think, you know, there is a way, and a lot of people do find it, whether it's just that having that inner peace, or, you know, like if they having that love and being kind of that unlimited supply and being love. And it's amazing if you can get it, but what most people find is they struggle because they've got a lot of these traumas and things that get in the way, and a lot of fear. And it's really damaging. And then we're going to even more extreme lengths to try and get that high and that kind of, you know, just that peace where we're not kind of overwhelmed with everything else. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you say you meditate, and I suppose you learn, that's when you started getting into this through meditation and that. What do you still meditate now then, I suppose? Like
Yeah, I do. I'm not one for a huge amount of structure and routine.
Yeah.
Just the idea of that, you know, I think I'm going to do it every day this amount. I'm never going to do it just because I think I just don't like to conform to that. So I'm very much, I don't necessarily sit down and, you know, it's not about getting your mind clear. It's about just being mindful, and it's about actually allowing whatever is going to come up to come up. So a lot of people kind of get a bit of a misconception about meditation, thinking, you know, I'm never going to get my mind clear. I'm never going to be able to sit still. You can do a walking meditation. I meditate in the shower. And all it is really is just that mindfulness. And it's about being aware and noticing what is going on for you. Like, I do a lot of somatic work. So it's about feeling like your body, you know, what does your body feel like? Whether it's, you know, things are moving, is something surfacing? Does something feel like there's a bit, you know, there's a block, or I'm holding tension? And then it's just actually internalizing that and just investigating and just asking yourself the questions like, you know, why is it feeling like that? Where is it coming from? What do I need to do? You know, there are a lot of answers that you can find within. And, you know, there's never any time where I really feel like complete silence. Sometimes, but that's usually just because I'm tired.
Yeah. Yeah. I find that meditation very useful as well. It's like well, I don't know, like we have these traumas or what have you, and we can inherit them from our parents as well. That could be passed on, and their parents, however far back it goes, it can all be passed down, obviously, because when we're kids we're sponges and we absorb all the energy, sort of thing. So on a bigger picture, there's a lot more, they call it mental illness, but in other societies they do call it like a calling to become the healers of their community, sort of thing. So going from that, I mean, where there's now more mental illness, could that be a calling for, like, I don't know, a society of healers or something like that to come out of it? Do you see what I mean? Like,
definitely. Have you heard of sort of like crystal children, rainbow children?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like a concept where a lot of, I think it's from like 80s onwards, where a lot of children these days, you know, we're having a massive increase of people that are diagnosed with autism and Asperger's and all that kind of thing, ADHD. And my belief of it is that, yes, there is this kind of new generation of hypersensitive beings where we are naturally very, you know, we're empaths. So we do, like I say, we're sponges to emotions as well, and to trauma, and we're bringing stuff, but we're here to kind of to help to finally heal that. And by nature, that is kind of what we are. But we're really kind of, we're asking a lot more questions, and we know that there's a lot of bigger problems that are going on in the world, and we're kind of here to do that. So I do definitely agree that, you know, we are seeing a massive kind of generation of healers. I do think we're going back to the inherited trauma, and that's kind of a part of what we're here to do. But it's not just that we absorb it all physically in this life. It's that trauma, when things affect you, when you go through anything in your life, that thought, that memory, that emotion, that experience is kind of programmed into your DNA, into your aura, your energy. So that is kind of you. We can cleanse that. So, you know, some of the work I do is about cleansing these and releasing these traumas, emotions, and all of that from your being. But if it's not, and it's still there, and it becomes quite toxic, that is then passed also through, you know, the DNA and into the children. So we could still be suffering the traumas from millions of years ago, potentially, if it hasn't been kind of cleared in a good way. So it can, I think we've kind of got to the point now where we're seeing so much more, you know, we're so much more alert and sensitive to things, and spiritually kind of advanced and evolved, but we're seeing so much heaviness, but in a way I think it's actually kind of pushing us to make a lot of change and to be these healers of the world. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, 100. It's like, yeah. It's almost like a collective, like, you know, like society. Well, the society that we live in, is built upon, like, you know, war, all this sort of stuff, that's people just acting out of pain. Like, the more you learn about that, the more you see that throughout our history that we're taught at school is just people acting in pain that decided to go conquer the world and all that. Like, I like to like look at communities that haven't been affected by our society, see how they live, and the way that they treat mental health, like mental illness, is completely different. It's like they welcome that person to the center of their community, whoever starts experiencing these things, and they go through the healing journey. And, you know, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Like I don't know, like how could we go about, you know, like changing people's perspectives within our own community and stuff like that. You know, it's like somebody gets labelled with a mental illness, it's like within our society, it's like they almost lose their voice, whereas like in other communities around the world, it's they're gaining their voice. Do you see what I mean? So like, how do is it all work we got to just do individually and then collectively come together? I mean, is it work that we can, I don't know, can we change, I don't know, can we change it, sort of thing? Like,
I think we definitely can. I think we are, you know, just for example, like, you know, Greta Thunberg, you know, how one voice is having a massive impact. And I think it's that Mother Teresa quote as well, you know, if you want to change the world, start by changing, you know, and loving your family. And
yeah.
that's kind of really rung true for me, I think, a lot recently, especially with all the trauma and all the fear that's going around in the world, especially this year, but obviously for the years as well coming up to this. And just thinking, you know, we can feel so overwhelmed. You want to do good and you want to make this massive difference in the world or be a part of it, or, you know, there's, you know, things that need to be changed, but we must look after ourselves and we will burn out. And, you know, healers generally are very empathetic and very sensitive, and if you're not looking after your own energy, you're not doing these things, then, you know, you will burn out and, you know, you're not gonna be able to do any of it. But also I think it's about realizing that when you're working with energy or you're doing these things which are so from, you know, from your heart, that it's based on love. And sometimes I notice that actually a lot of people are affected, or they learn things, or they'll absorb something from me, and I haven't even noticed I've even done anything. And it's just because of, you know, your aura, or one thing you say because it's in love, or, you know, the light that you're giving out. And that people may not notice on a conscious level that they're actually being affected by it, or that they're noticing anything, but they will be on some kind of level, on a really unconscious level, they will be affected by that. So I think it's about just being okay with doing it for yourself, for the ones you love, and just spreading that word, and the ripple effect will be massive. So if we all kind of do that one thing, then collectively it will have a huge impact.
Yeah, butterfly effect. 100%. So definitely, like, you know, I don't know how to describe it. Like, we'll talk about that later. Like, I think, like, you do find resistance when you do go down the path of healing, sometimes from people closest to you, but could that also be them not wanting to let go of their own pain, sort of thing? So like, where you're trying to heal it, your own sort of stuff, they're well, without even realizing, they're unconsciously sort of like trying to stop that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think it works both ways. So like, you might just, but they may just either be aware or see you doing something for yourself or somebody else, and it can take them into that, you know, they're going to protect themselves and shut down and really want to hold on to it.
Yeah.
But, or they could maybe, you could help them kind of release it. A lot of people, you know, with these traumas or things that they may probably need to work on, but they're not ready, and they have to be ready, and it has to be their choice, because it can't be forced. But we get so kind of used to, and we get a lot of comfort by holding on to things, and whether that's like a label or like depression and stuff like that, and we get really like safe in that because that's kind of all we know, or definitely maybe all we've known for a few years or something. Or maybe it's because it's associated with a pain, or, you know, an ex that's that, you know, that's your only attachment, so you're holding on to that even though you're heartbroken. And we do hold on, like, I think just by our nature as human beings, we want to hold on to things because we want to be able to preserve any amount of love or connection or attachment that we have to something that we wanted. Whereas really, you know, like, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for them is to let that go. But it's having that trust and that faith, and that's something that is really difficult to have, and a lot of people really struggle to believe in, you know, the trust that it'll be okay, or, you know, what's right for you will happen. And it's, especially at the moment, it's really hard to see it in the future, or, you know, just to accept it. So we hang on for dear life. But the biggest lesson, or the biggest kind of gift almost you can really give yourself, is just to have that trust and that faith. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in, you know, one thing or in a certain thing, but if you can have it in yourself, like, that's the most powerful thing you can have of all. And then you can let go of these things.
Yeah. So find that power within, and everything sort of falls into place, and that, you know,
It does bring so much peace, being able to, you know, I think that's probably why obviously like things like religion and spirituality is, you know, it's just so big, because the being able to also not necessarily feel that responsibility, but just to have some faith and that trust and hope is massive. It just brings, you know, just a little bit of peace to whatever you've got going on. And with anxiety and depression and stuff that's, you know, at all-time high at the moment, it's, you know, it's difficult, but it does give you that kind of that buffer net, and, you know, to be able to let go a little bit of that and just to breathe a little bit better. And if you've got a little bit of hope and you can trust in something or have faith that it will work out, then at least you've got a chance of helping to shift it.
That's it. Yeah. Faith's a powerful tool, man. 100%. So, faith is, well, if you have faith in the bigger picture, I suppose that's the divine itself, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
it's almost like just trusting is trusting ourselves, and then trusting everything else. And it's like, it's just the universe trusting itself. Do you know what I mean? Like, for it to grow and become like this most abundant version, it has to trust itself, obviously. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you can't trust yourself, who can you trust? And so it's like almost like going within and finding that self-love, self-trust, and everything that goes along with it. It's almost like the universe patting itself on the back. Do you know what I mean? It's like, sort of, just, you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's, I mean, I don't know whether you would have read or listened to it. The Universe Has It Back by Gabby Bernstein.
No, I don't
Really
know.
big. I've listened to the Audible, but I mean, it's a good book with a really good principle of, you know, regardless of whatever happens, the universe always has your back, and there's a way that it will conform and it will come together, and, you know, it does it every single day. Miracles happen. You know, the fact that we're alive, and you know, the way that the earth is perfectly formed and we all interact with each other is like phenomenally amazing. So, but it's sometimes just about getting a little bit of perspective, and I think that then helps you to think, oh, okay, actually, you know, like it will work out okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Even if stuff that's really hard in life at the minute, you know, like around the corner could be something beautiful. Even like when you look at it with fresh eyes, it could be like some of the most beautiful lessons that the universe has taught us, you know. So
Definitely.
yeah, definitely.
I think with mental health and anxiety and depression, it can feel so overwhelming. It's difficult to see that in those moments. I know just from personal experience, when I was going through panic attacks and feeling like really overwhelmed with my anxiety, if someone come up to me and said, you know, I'll just get a bit of perspective, you know, just think outside, just, you know, you'll be fine. And in that moment though, you can't do that. And that's then where I think like these other kind of techniques and things do kind of really help, just to get you through that moment, just to help you breathe a little better. And, you know, and that's also why energy healing is amazing, because you don't need to think, you know, to get a positive mindset, to be able to believe and have faith. Like it's a lot of mindset stuff. It's a lot of working the mind and getting, you know, shifting those beliefs and things. So, but if you haven't got the capacity to do that in those moments, then, you know, then that is I think where a lot of people get so much from energy healing, because you haven't got to worry about anything. You can just like almost surrender, or even if you know you can't physically feel it, you're surrendering, but you surrender your kind of body to it, and it kind of happens regardless for your highest good. So it's powerful in that way.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, man. So it's almost like you surrender to it, and then it's like you remind yourself like that you can heal, and it's almost like everything working together, like you allowing that energy to pass through you. It's all working together to promote the healing sort of thing, you know? Yeah, definitely.
So think and believe in yourself, like, and if you look back in your life and think, you know, like what have been my worst experiences, or, you know, the worst times, or the times of most stress or whatever, and where you probably felt, oh, it couldn't get better, you know, and you look back on it and actually think, you know what, it was fine, you know, and it happened a lot of the time completely naturally, and it was resolved. So it's good to kind of keep in mind and reflect, do a lot of reflection sometimes, just to kind of get because we kind of need proof. I think when we're so uncertain of things, we want to look for the evidence of where it has been okay. And because the fact that you're still here, it just goes to show that it does work, and it can happen.
Yeah, definitely. Every day above ground's a blessing.
Mm.
Man. That brings, gratitude as well, 100%. Like, you start noticing, like, sometimes we can notice the small details that annoy us, but if we were to change that sort of like focus on the small things that make our life what it is, you know, like the fact that, like you said, the planet's perfectly formed, the fact that we can breathe, the fact that we can open and close our, like, it's all like mini blessings. But once you start noticing them, you should realize the blessing of the bigger picture anyway.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, a lot of people are doing gratitude practices as you know, try and make it like a daily ritual, even if you're just saying one thing you're grateful for. And when you're in a state of gratitude, that vibration, you know, comes from a place of love, it comes from your heart. And you know, I believe all healing is done from the heart, and that can activate, you know, healing from everything else. So something so simple as just thinking, you know, what are you grateful for? Like, just genuinely, it doesn't have to be the things that kind of seem, you know, it's sort of too superficial at the moment. It could just be the fact that you're breathing, or the fact that, you know, you've got clothes and food and things like that. Because one of the things with like affirmations and gratitude is that it's quite like it can be a little bit of a novel concept, where people think, you know, it's everything's about being grateful for stuff. But you can, using an affirmation where it's too far removed from your reality, even though you might be trying to manifest it, but if it doesn't resonate with you on some level so that you can actually vibrate with it, then you're going to dissociate, and it's you're never going to feel it. And actually you might trigger more of a traumatic experience, because what it shows you is that you don't have it, and that you're really far away from it.
Yeah.
So it's about just, you know, just to kind of mention, I guess, to have affirmations and gratitude of things that you can relate to. So it might just be something so small, like you say, you know, the fact that we're here, the fact that we can breathe, and then build it up to things that you want to actually attract into your life.
Yeah, law of attraction. For anybody listening out there, like you just touched upon it, like how can we change, like, people that keep repeating behaviours and maybe not attracting what they really want in life? How would you advise them to change and break the habits and attract, like, you know, like aligned with their higher self?
So there's kind of two ways to go about that. Like, the first is, like I said, about the gratitude, about like raising your vibration. So anything with manifestation, you want something better, you want something bigger, you want something of more value. It doesn't have to be materialistic, it could just be of something that you place more value on. You need to be raising your vibration. So that's working with things like, you know, the crystals, essential oils, doing your affirmations, doing your gratitude. So that's brilliant, because that is going to naturally raise that. If you can connect with it, amazing, that's great. Do those journaling, do the goal setting. So you want to kind of have something that you're working towards. Make sure you want to bring it out of the 5D into the 3D. So rather than just thinking about it, it needs to actually be tangible. So definitely write it down. That's a great way, because you're actually bringing it into existence then. Speak about it, whether it's just yourself, voice note it, you know, speak about it into that, or whether you're talking about it with friends and family. Just any kind of way that you can actually kind of materialize this thing. It might be, say, I want like a new place, so I'm gonna buy myself it might just be a teapot for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, just something so that it's like, okay, I'm taking action that's going to bring me what I want. And it's just because it just shows you've got trust and faith in the universe that it's going to deliver. The next thing you kind of want to do is, if it's about aligning with your higher self, you really want to find out and become friends with your higher self. So that's about doing the inner work. That's about going and you know, reconnecting with your inner child, and making sure that, you know, you've not got any really big traumas that are actually stopping you from manifesting and bringing these things. Because when we're operating from a place of trauma, fear, stress, all of that, and especially lack, if you're constantly thinking that you don't have it, then that's going to block you. So get rid of that. It's all about, you know, writing and saying that you have it, so that you're already there. But yeah, so really get friends with yourself, with your higher self, with your inner child, and ask, you know, what is my purpose? What do I kind of want on that really deep level? And then we can either kind of work on manifesting that kind of spiritual stuff as well as the physical stuff. I had a really big issue for years about my worth and about money. I had a really bad relationship with money because I just thought, you know, money was selfish. It was, you know, materialistic, shallow. I didn't want to associate myself with any of that. So I totally just pushed it away because I didn't want to be a bad person. I didn't want to be greedy. And then what I realized is that actually that just, what it did, it told me that I was telling myself that I'm not good enough and that I didn't deserve it. And that, you know, money is an energy. It's an energy exchange when it's a transaction, but it's just, you know, it's a currency for energy. So if we look at things like that, whatever it is you want to manifest, look at it as energy. Look at it as that you want to be vibrating at that higher energy and allow it to come in. And we need to receive from our heart. So really work on your heart space, your heart chakra, practice giving, receiving love, and you know, and it will start to open up. It might take time. It's probably going to take time if it's something that might be blocked or there's problems with, or if there's trauma and stuff. But it's just about practicing that exchange, and you know, and it will happen. But there could be something that is quite big that could be blocking that you're not even aware of. So that's where the inner work comes in.
That's when the work comes in. So what? So say people have started and they've got to that point now that they're aware of maybe these traumas and pains or what have you, that or blockages. What's the next step? Who like? Have you got anybody like maybe even yourself that they could reach out to?
So exactly. I mean, I work. Yeah, I love doing that kind of work. It's, you know, working with, it's the specific, the traumas, and going through that whole healing process. You can do some stuff alone. You can do the inquiry and things like that, and that support. But it depends on how you feel and what these traumas are. A lot of the time, we need to have that space being held for us by somebody, to kind of really go in and be sort of seen and heard. A lot of the time it's actually about being heard with our trauma, which is difficult to do on your own. So find somebody that you know, whether it's a professional or a friend or somebody that can hold space for you and that can guide you through. So that's really important, that you feel safe. And yeah, and you know, and just give yourself time. You know, it's going to take some forgiveness. It's going to take a lot of love, but you'll get there. And you know, and the kind of the result after is just amazing. It's so worth it. But you know, if you're listening to this and you're feeling called to it, then chances are it's you know, there is a time that you've kind of come to listen to actually step into that. So yeah, it's a process, but it's definitely worth it, you know, especially to get to those next sort of up levels in your life.
Definitely. So reach out, definitely. You know, because there's so much you can learn off yourself, I suppose. Like within every, like if we go back to the start of whatever, like however we came about, and the first healer, they would have had to follow their own sort of like intuition, I suppose, or learn to heal themselves, and then they become, I don't know, maybe like there's always just been, I don't know, but
we're always discovering more. And
yeah,
it's
definitely.
like peeling an onion as well, like with trauma sometimes. You know, I think there's a time in life, I've done a lot, you know, it's been exhausting, but I know there's going to still be more there, whether it's my own or ancestral, whatever, because you know, we've got lifetimes of trauma to unpack, but you can't do it all at once. So it's about finding the right time. And sometimes, you know, you might find you do a lot in 1 year, you have a few years, and then you feel like it's time something else comes up. So yeah, it doesn't have to be like a really overwhelming experience. So it's definitely good if you're supported, or if you're able to go in and discover this yourself, then great.
Yeah, definitely. Well, Alice, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. It's been great. Thanks for having me.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed that. I'll well, if there's anything you'd like to say to anybody out there that might be listening, that might like words of wisdom from your own journey, I don't know, anything, pointers.
Yeah, I think, you know, if we're thinking about relating to mental health as well, you know, if you haven't already started, there's going to be a lot of forgiveness and a lot of love that's got to kind of come through this. And that's all you can give yourself. Just don't put any pressure on yourself. We're all kind of struggling in one way or another right now. And that's absolutely fine. It is okay, and it's okay to not be okay. So, there's a lot out there where there's a lot of judgment, or we feel like there's expectations and things. So, it's about going to that self-inquiry and holding space for yourself. And I think that's what's going to give us that comfort. And as we spoke a lot about this trauma and the healing and our chakra work, that there's things out there. If we can visit my website where you can get that support or be led through these sort of processes. And it's a really empowering process to go through. And when you start to look for that inner stuff with our mental health and our healing, it's liberating, and it will show a lot more to you. So as much as it might feel difficult at times, it's a really positive kind of result at the end of it. So yeah, but if you want to reach out, then I'm here to support you.
All right, sweet. Yeah. Cool. All right, well, I'll sign off quickly. Another bless.
'Cause I'll be there for you, 'cause we care for you. You're there for me too, my friend. I know it's hard sometimes when you feel left behind. Tell me what's on your mind. Why do this on your own? Yeah. 'Cause I'll be there for you, my friend. 'Cause I'll be there for you, 'cause you're there for me too. Oh yeah, there for you in the end.